In this series, I'll be talking about all 26 women that have come forward to address Trump's assault. In chronological order, first we have Jessica Leeds. Trump reached his hand up her skirt and groped her while seated next to her on a flight in the 1970s. 3 years later, she ran into him and he recognized her and called her a cunt. He denied the allegations at a rally in 2016 and said that Leeds wasn't attractive enough for him to assault. Next, we have Ivana Trump. In a 1990 divorce deposition, Trump's first wife came forward about her then-husband raping her in a fit of rage in 1989. Journalist Harry Hurt got a copy of the deposition and said that the most upsetting quote was, quote, "Then he jams his penis inside her for the first time in more than 16 months. Ivana is terrified. It's a violent assault." Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, argued in 2015 that his client could not have raped Ivana because, quote, "You cannot rape your spouse." He took this statement back, admitting that it was inarticulate. So Trump's statements regarding these first two assaults are that he couldn't have assaulted them because one was not attractive enough and one was his wife. The 26 Women, Part 2. In chronological order, we're at number 3, which is Christian Anderson. At a New York nightclub in the early 1990s, Trump reached his hand under her skirt and touched her vagina through her underwear. She didn't even realize that he was sitting next to her until he was groping her. Anderson and her friends left the table they were seated at and said, "We all know he's gross, let's just move on." Trump has no defense on this case and just states it's, quote, "ridiculous," even though there's a large number of witnesses. Number 4, Jill Harth. Trump pushed her up against a wall and put his hand up her skirt and tried to kiss her at a dinner party at his Mar-a-Lago resort in the early 1990s when he was her business partner and held a position of power over her. In 2016, she described the night as, quote, "relentless. I didn't know how to handle it. I would go away from him and have to go to the restroom. It was an escape route." Harth sued Trump in 1997 for both sexual harassment and for failing to uphold his end of a business deal with Harth and her partner. It's safe to say the reason he didn't uphold his end of their business deal was because of the resentment he had for her after the incident. 26 Women, Part 3. Lisa Boyne. In 1996, at a dinner with Trump and modeling agent John Casablancas, herself and several other women in attendance were forced to walk across a table in order to leave. As the women walked on the table, Trump looked at their skirts and commented on their underwear and genitals. Boyne is one of the 7 women who called on Congress to investigate Trump's sexual misconduct in December. Trump claims he doesn't remember her, so he couldn't have done it. Next is E. Jean Carroll. Trump sexually assaulted her by pinning her against the wall and forcing his penis inside of her in a department store dressing room in the mid-1990s. The moment the dressing room door closed, he lunged at her, pushed her against the wall, and hit her head quite badly. Then, while keeping his full business attire on, he unzipped his pants and forced his fingers around her private area, thrusting his penis inside of her. Jean submitted evidence that would have Trump's DNA on it if he was guilty, and he refuses to provide a DNA sample, which would clear his name if he was really innocent. If Jean's lawyers can obtain a warrant for his DNA now that he's not president, she'll win this case. The 26 Women, Part 4. Trump walked in on these 2 teen Miss USA contestants while they were changing in their dressing room in the 1997 pageant. Mariah was newly 18 and Victoria was 17. Mariah started putting her dress on quickly and said, quote, "Oh my God, there's a man in here," unquote. To which Trump said, quote, "Don't worry, ladies, I've seen it all before," unquote. Trump admitted to this incident when he boasted in an April 2005 interview with radio host Howard Stern. He said he regularly walked into contestants' dressing rooms on the beauty pageants he owned while women were unclothed, therefore admitting that this also was not an isolated incident. In the interview, he said, quote, "I'll go backstage before the show and everyone's getting dressed and ready. And there's no men anywhere, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant. They're standing there with no clothes, and you see these incredible looking women, and I sort of get away with that," unquote. He took this statement back to be able to run for president, but he'd already admitted to it. And that's not exactly the kind of thing you can take back. These women deserve justice. The 26 Women, Part 5. The first woman we're talking about today is Temple Target. Former Miss Utah told the New York Times in May 2016 that Trump kissed her directly on the lips when she met him for the first time at the Miss USA pageant in 1997. Trump did the same thing when Target met him again at Trump Tower, Manhattan, after he offered to aid her in her modeling career. In November 2017, Target spoke out again, telling the Times allegations against Trump were, quote, "brushed under the rug." Trump's defense for this one is one he's used before, that he doesn't remember who she is, so it must not have happened. The next woman is Kathy Heller. She told The Guardian in 2016 that she was attending a brunch with her husband and children at the Mar-a-Lago in the 1990s when Trump approached her table, introduced himself to her, and forcibly kissed her. She said, quote, "He took my hand and grabbed me and went for the lips." She added that she was, quote, "angry and shaken" as a result of the incident. Trump's defense is that if he had done it, then his employees who are on his payroll would remember it, and not just her family and children, who were in reality the only people close enough to the incident to see it. The 26 Women, Part 6. Amy Doris. Trump forcibly kissed her, groped her, and secured her tightly so she couldn't get away in his U.S. Open VIP box in 1997. When Doris recalled the incident, she described the incident playing out as, quote, just him shoving his tongue down my throat and I was pushing him off, and that's when his grip got tighter and his hands were very gropey and all over my butt and breasts and back and everything. I was in his grip and I couldn't get out of it. She told him to, quote, please stop, but he didn't care. Trump has no defense for this incident and denies it with no evidence. The second woman we're talking about today is Karina Virginia. Trump groped her as she waited for her car outside the U.S. Open in New York in 1998 when she was 27. She overheard Trump talking with a group of men about her legs, and then Trump approached her and grabbed her by the arm and touched her breast before asking her, quote, don't you know who I am? Trump's response to her recollection of the assault is, quote, give me a break. There's multiple witness accounts, and there's clear evidence. These women deserve justice. The 26 Women, Part 7. Karen Johnson. Trump pulled her behind a tapestry and kissed her, groped her, then touched her vagina without her consent during a New Year's Eve party in the early 2000s. She spoke about the incident saying, quote, I'm a tall girl and I had 6-inch heels on, and I still remember looking up at him, and he's strong, and he just kissed me. I was so scared because of who he was. I don't even know where it came from. I didn't have a say in the matter. When he says that thing, grab them by the pussy, that hits me hard because when he grabbed me and pulled me into the tapestry, that's where he grabbed me. Trump called her repeatedly after the incident, offering to fly her to New York to visit him. She refused his advances and never saw him again. Next is Melinda McGalvery. Trump grabbed her butt while they were backstage during a Ray Charles concert in 2003. Ken Davidoff, a photographer at the concert, said that after it happened, she approached him and said, Donald just grabbed my ass. She's fighting for justice to this day. Recently, she said, he has to face the music. He can't get away with this. I just want justice.